Hey, everybody, this is James Pelton. I hope you had a wonderful week. So it's Friday now. It's actually kind of a rainy day here in Lincoln, Nebraska. So it's kind of a chill day a little bit, but really good to have you all. We're going to be talking about KERC today. And I'm excited about this one. It's been on my calendar for a while. They're doing some cool things. Again, I've told some of you that someone tweeted a few weeks ago, is there anyone that's actually doing something on the blockchain that is actually accomplishing something? And so I'm on the lookout for projects that I think, hey, they're actually doing something on the blockchain that is valuable. And so excited to talk about that today. So if you're in the audience, need you to hit the like button. Number one thing from you guys. If you have questions or anything as we're going, please feel free to ask. Awesome. Coming over to, I don't know how to pronounce your name. So I'm just going to start with, can you introduce yourself, a little bit of your background, and then we'll dive into KERC.
For sure. Hi, everyone. My name is John. If you can see, my name is Joylot. I think it's just easier because my Discord handle, it's been that for the longest time, and because quite a few number of people know me as that. So I guess I can't really change that because then it'll be sort of like weird. So I've been in the healthcare industry for over a decade plus now. We've experienced with starting with doing medical tourism, and we've sort of ventured into the foray of health technology. And with the whole COVID season, we sort of pivot into asset management in a very heavy way in the last 3 years. And here I am.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, no, really excited to talk through this. We got a few people in the audience. Hello to Badru and Green Llama, Tycho, RX Rob, Robert Olson. Good to see you too. Got to meet him in my my trip to Dubai, actually. So good to see all of you, connect with all of you. Thanks for joining here today. So let's go ahead. Let's start talking about KERC a little bit. Can you kind of give? I always like to start with a 10,000-foot view. What's kind of the elevator pitch of what you're trying to do here with KERC?
Yeah, so what KERC is trying to do essentially is a long run in the sense of this project's not going to be here for a short term. This project, what we are planning, is not 5 years plan, it's more than that in a sense, because what we're trying to do is trying to innovate and trying to move the healthcare space forward in a lot of sense. And what that means is that because when you talk about introducing new technology, new innovation, especially with the whole DeFi space, which me and my lead developers Occupy, we're huge fans of in that sense. Ever since we ventured into this foray of the whole cryptoverse, like I've became friends with him even through the whole cryptoverse because of investing into different projects together. So basically to move a whole, I would say, category of businesses towards that innovation and that whole system, you sort of need to introduce a lot of different things. And I think there's always going to be a lot of pushback because as when you talk about traditional businesses, people like to run things the way they do. And it takes a lot to sort of push the market forward because everyone is not going to sort of agree on the same system unless it's a very big change. So what KERC is trying to do is basically move into acquiring these primary healthcare asset facilities with the invested funds that we have raised. And then it's easier for us to then introduce those innovations that we talk about to our investors on scale when you start handling, when you start owning those assets. So yes, that would be a great way to sort of introduce you to KERC in a sense of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to change. And this also is a great opportunity to investors to sort of venture into the healthcare industry with a low amount of capital.
Okay, very good. No, I love that. And then right on the back of the elevator pitch, we just with the way the markets have been, the way DeFi is, I always like to ask about revenue streams and like what. So where's money going to be coming from? How are you going to be generating revenue? So do you want to talk a little bit about a little bit through that?
Yeah, for sure. So KERC essentially is looking into raising funds to acquire these primary care asset facilities, and all revenue that's going to be paid out in KERC is going to come from these assets. Obviously, there are different ways of generating income from our business model because it's quite natural for us to progress into this. When we started KERC as a whole project, this is sort of a venture into my old traditional business because traditionally I personally also own quite a number of healthcare assets, primary care assets. And when we were building this project, we thought of building it with utility first in mind. And so we built the whole tokenomics and the whole Web3 system around this project, rather than the other way around, where normally you sort of create a vision first, then you figure out how to introduce utility into your system, how to introduce revenue into your system. So this is revenue and utility first as a foray in the project. Then the tokenomics and everything will sort of build around that. So our business model, as you can see, the white paper is I would say is fairly straightforward in terms of like the whole healthcare space. But what we're going to do is, with the primary care assets that we sort of going to own, we're pushing back 80% of those net profits back to the investors in the form of USDC.
Okay, very cool. So can you kind of explain how that's going to work for an investor? So you buy the pre-sale. Is there going to be like a staking option, or and then it's going to be just paid out? Is there going to be a DApp where you just go in and claim, or kind of how's that going to work for it and from an investor standpoint?
Yeah, so what we decided to go more for is a token. A lot of people have always asked us, like, okay, why don't you go into an NFT, or why don't you go into nodes, in a sense? Because this is sort of a very long game, in a sense, where it's a long investment. When you're structuring something like this, it's not going to be a very straightforward process. And the reason so is because there's going to be utility for our tokens down the road. As you can see in our roadmap, we definitely have ideas in terms of how we can see the tokens being utilized in the future as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to buy KERC tokens. You're going to be able to stake it in our DApp. That will be released after the pre-sale. And you have an option of 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. And those will basically give you the same fixed return of a 1.5% paid out in USDC plus profit participation. So what that means is that, because when we're talking about traditional businesses, we can't really, when you start acquiring these assets, you can't immediately start scaling them to a point where we are comfortable with, or to a point where I would say that we are happy with, in a sense, because traditional primary care assets can sort of do on a safe level about 3 to 6% month-on-month average on your initial investment. It's a very safe bet. But obviously, with the technology that we can sort of push forward to, and on scale, when you start innovating and you start basically optimizing costs, we know that we can push those earnings to 6 to 12%. But that takes time to sort of ramp up. So basically, we sort of create the payout system in a 1.5% fixed USDC to give us a sort of a safeguard for bad seasons. Plus, profit participation would have no cap, in that sense, where there's not going to be a limit in terms of how much you're going to earn from the business. So whatever that's remaining, or how good we do that month, basically all the profits will be pushed back to our investors. So our target goal will be sort of get everyone to that 6 to 12% range month on month on your investment.
Okay, very good. And then can you kind of explain, so when you get the money that comes in, from the pre-sale or whatever else might be, you're sending, can you explain where this money goes to? Does it go to these healthcare facilities? And just kind of explain a little bit about the flow of money after you guys receive it.
So after we receive the money, we're basically going to off-ramp it, in a sense, because a big chunk of it is going to go towards acquiring these assets. And that's why I guess our security measures in this whole project is going to be quite unique, as probably we're going to cover down the road in a bit, in a sense. So after we off-ramp those funds, whatever that's required, obviously we're not going to do it all at once. It's going to be bit by bit as required. We're going to announce the assets we're going to acquire. We're going to show, in a sense, give teasers in terms of that. And basically, we're going to start acquiring these assets. So from this whole structure, we also have created traditional companies, in that sense. We've already set those up. We're starting off in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia specifically. So we've already set up 2 companies here that sort of work around the structure of taxation, and also within the laws of crypto space, in that sense, because there's still no like hard and fast rule in terms of how you can sort of work crypto in Southeast Asia. There's no's in terms of, there's a line of where you can't go, but there's also a line where they don't tell you whether what you can and cannot do. So we're playing within those lines, and after speaking with the SEC of the local area, basically we are we've created the company structure to sort of do that. And with that said, we're basically going to acquire these assets. And the moment we acquire these are assets that are already generating revenue. We're not looking to acquiring assets that are new or not doing well in that sense. We are only looking at assets that have a track record of years of revenue, that are already, in a sense, on the undervalued side of a lot of these businesses, of what we see in terms of where the opportunity sort of lies. Because when you talk about primary care assets, definitely, I would say they are very sorry. Maybe it's backtrack one step, because when I talk about primary care assets, they are mainly GP clinics. They're general practitioner clinics. So these are not the big hospitals we're looking at. These are not the I would say the specialty centers. These are your basic bread and butter businesses when you first foray into the healthcare industry. Obviously, in terms of the profits and margins are not I would say not as sexy as hospitals, but they are great in a sense, because it's something that you need day to day. It's something you can never escape when it comes to healthcare, because it's your first step in that sense. So when we are looking to acquire these assets, a lot of times they are owned by a single person, and that person is normally a doctor. So they are not going to be well optimized. They're not going to be, I would say, at a level of efficiency where a corporation would want it to be, because they are sort of like run personally, and they're comfortable running it that way, because you don't need that level of innovation for the whole system to work. So with our turnkey system of what we've sort of done, it's very easy for us to introduce them into an ecosystem whereby when you start working in a chain, there's a lot of cost variables you can start working with, and the reduction in cost. So for sure, in this whole process, the funds that we use to acquire these assets will then generate revenue that we then on-ramp back to, I would say, the crypto side. And with our treasury, we will basically pay out in USDC.
Okay, very cool. And can you kind of explain? So when you purchase one of these, GP practices, what kind of improvements are you looking to make, and how exactly are you going to be involving the blockchain? I know it says on the website, people using the KERC token to pay for services, but do you want to just kind of explain what all you're going to be doing on the blockchain with these places?
Yeah, for sure. So when you talk about a GP clinic, they are quite, I would say, the way to run a GP clinic is quite bare bone. Obviously, taking into consideration, you need to understand a lot of the paperwork, the red tape in terms of to apply for licenses and to keep those licenses. Those structures are not that easy. That's why for us, when we sort of figure out that system and we do it on a day-to-day basis, it's very easy for us to keep in compliance with those laws and rules. But other than that, the bare bones structure of a business for a GP is basically a doctor, a nurse, an administrational person, and maybe just your accountant in that sense. And everything else you do is a volume-based play. So patients come in not for minor surgeries. They don't come in for anything major, so you don't need any other additional things. You're coming for simple works, ultrasounds, simple x-rays, vaccinations, your cough, flu, diarrhea, medication, stuff like that, and your basically prescription medication. So in that sense, a business like that is quite simple in a model to sort of run. But when you start introducing them to a group in that sense, you start looking at different levels of cost when it comes to consumables, because you can now start warehousing different things. One of our plans also is to acquire different scale pharmacies as well, because then we'll get wholesaling prices with all these things. So your consumables and your medication, the margin starts jumping higher when you can start ordering more, and that magic basically happens because of that. And with optimization, with like what you said previously about the whole blockchain of what we are trying to do, we are trying to basically innovate and push what is traditionally sort of sound, because a lot of I would say practices still use pen and paper to this point in day, because there's just no need for them to sort of change, and doctors are comfortable just writing it down. So with our systems of what we've created, is quite simple to basically, like for example, introduce writing into your report system, introduce patient flow management with the simple COS systems. So that means that we sort of can create an application that we can introduce to all our patients that will sort of simplify your whole patient journey. You can make your appointments easier, your whole telemedicine, in a sense, if you're interested in that whole process as well. And the real blockchain will come in basically how we utilize smart contracts to store patient data. We've been in talks with Microsoft Azure to be HIPAA compliant in this component. Obviously, there's still definitely kinks that we need to work out and finalize on, but it's something that's definitely doable. So basically, the patients in that venture into our facilities will have access to our application, where you can basically have access to all your simple health data through the blockchain in a sense. So your data is finally in a secure and safe manner in your own hands, rather than I would say some facilities to use Google Drive or use your email to sort of store your x-rays, keep all of that. And when you go to a new hostel or you go to another specialist, you got to sort of like email that facility and center that. In this manner, it's easier for you to have those information, and basically you can just email them from the app itself in a very safe and secure way. So this is, for example, one of the innovations that we talk about, like sort of introducing to our patients. And on scale, when you have a large flow of patients using this system, it's easy to then start asking other facilities and other owners to say, hey, look, we have this. Would you like to try and use it with your community as well, instead of us going to them as, hey, look, this is a system solution for you, would you like to try it out? And then we have to charge them a fee, and then they'll be unhappy because is it really giving value to my patient? And they really want something like that. So that's one of, for example, a great way of how we're using the whole Web3 and blockchain system. And just to touch on the payment gateway system, so that's definitely another simple way of what we talk about token utilization, where the plans down the road is to basically just allow a patient to use a credit card and say, hey, look, this is your treatment is done for today. This is the fee that you got to pay. Either you pay in fiat, or maybe you want to pay in KERC token, or maybe in other tokens as well, because we are in talks with other projects as well to basically sort of give them this utility to be able to pay in their native token. So this is something that is definitely down the road, and we're working in the pipelines.
Okay, very cool. No, I love that, because that's something I need. I was just a few weeks ago, I was at the doctor for something, and I went to one clinic and had to fill out all this info, and then they actually ended up having too long of a wait, so I had to go over to a different one, and it was the exact same info, and I'm like, how many times do I have to fill this out? And it was just, and it's a good 20 minutes of info that I have to fill in, and then your info is going all over the place too, and you don't have any control over it. It's just floating out there. So really, really like that. I think that's a clever way of doing it. I don't know if you guys, this could be for off air too, but I'm working with Jenny Co., which is doing something similar to that too. So there might be some synergy there at some point. So I don't know if you haven't talked with them already, maybe we can make that connection and see if we can work something out, because they're doing something with that as well. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, well, let's go over. So can you tell us a little bit about this? This is the $1 million question. This is actually what most people, this is all they care about. So they're like, okay, great. You're doing this, this, and this, and this. How much money can I make? That's the $1 million question. Do you want to talk through kind of the rewards for the pre-sale, rewards if you wait and don't do the pre-sale, and just kind of talk through some of these numbers?
Yes, for sure. So as we covered previously before, where we would like to be in terms of return of investment is a safe 6 to 12% month on month. This is where we want to get everyone. But obviously, as a traditional business, when you start taking over a traditional asset, you can do all the due diligence you want in the world, but you never know. There's always going to be some form of skeleton in the closet. There's problems you got to fix. There's issues that the guy hit really well in a sense. And these are things that you sort of have to, pain points that you sort of have to work through, and before you get to a level of high optimization. So in order for us to get you there safely, and for us to do that without any Ponzonomics, we've created this drip down system whereby if you sort of stick with us on a longer term scale, we will get you a guarantee to that 6 to 12% level, because we know we can do that. So obviously on a safe level, we put ourselves at a 1.5%. And what that means is that as you stick for 12 months, you'll be getting effectively up to nearly 3 times your token value by the end of the 12 months. So that means it's basically 3 times your initial investment. So your 1.5% by the end of the first year essentially will be a 3% fix rather than a 1.5% fix with the airdrops. But at the same time, we basically want to hand it back to you, because we believe a bit in transparency, and it's your investment. You do what you want to do. This is only if you compound your airdrop tokens. If you decide to then sell it, if you guys do whatever you want with it, obviously you won't reach that level of the APY. But if you stick with us and if basically you allow us time to grow with you together, we will definitely make you work in that sense. So if you look on the 12-month structure, you would have ROI by month 6. If you compound, you have basically doubled your amount by sort of like month 11 and month 10 already.
Okay, no, good. This is good. I like this, and I like too that you're rewarding people. Obviously, there's a lot more risk when you're early trying to get into a pre-sale, something like that. You know, we've seen rugs and things like that, and so you're taking that extra risk, but there's extra reward that comes with that. And then here's the numbers, and I'll leave a link for you guys if you in the audience want to just go look through this. So this is if you get into the pre-sale, there's a little bit more bang for your buck. If you want to wait, you know, there's a lot less risk if you wait till after launch, but then there's less reward. So it's all about, you have to decide for yourself. Do you want, you know, high risk, high reward? Do you want a little bit lower risk, lower reward? Up for you to decide. But these numbers look, you know, doable for sure in a traditional business model. Are these kind of are these set numbers, or is it going to be variable depending on, you know, the performance of how you guys do, or how's that going to work?
No, these are set in that sense. So the only time for you to get this level of APY is at this pre-sale. At the launch sale, official launch sale, we're gonna give still a little bit of rewards basically to everyone to sort of like say, hey, look, maybe you've hesitated, or maybe you've missed out because there is going to be a cap on the pre-sale raise in a sense. If once we hit that cap, we are basically going to close, or if we hit the timeline in terms of the pre-sale for 7 days. We're not going to give this level of rewards anymore, because I think the best form of marketing and the best form of sort of proving ourselves would be just the track record of month-to-month basis and our performances. And I think that's when everyone starts seeing us having a good track record and a history in terms of just being in the market, paying out on time, doing what we're doing, and just being transparent. That's just the best form of marketing. And I don't think we need to give any of this kind of rewards ever again.
Okay, very good. No, I love that. Do you want to talk to us about the OTC system? Why'd you decide to do it that way? What exactly do you mean by OTC, dynamic OTC? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So when we were creating this whole project, as we said before, we were creating it from the utilization and the revenue for generation first. So obviously, when you start adding on the whole component of the whole crypto space and tokenomics, it's going to be quite tricky to sort of, I would say, sustain those pricing, because we went when we structured this whole thing, it took us about 6 months to basically get all the kinks and all the regulation and all the, I would say, the legal framework right in terms of with the local groundwork taxation systems, and also how we will sort of structure it in the crypto world versus that it's possible. So when we talk about keeping the price stable, initially we only launched with we were going to launch with an OTC system. I think that was the best way to sort of stay away from swing traders, and basically to sort of stay away from the whole run away with our token, because at the end of the day, what we really want is our token price to be stable, because we will be paying out based on the OTC price at the time. So we will have our own OTC system within our DApp, and when during after the pre-sale, when we start introducing how for you to stake and how for you to collect your rewards as well. So this is a platform where basically people can sort of sell their portion or their airdrops, for example, if they don't want to restake them. And why we say dynamic is because you don't need to sell in chunks, and that's the main reason why we didn't want to go with NFTs as well. Because, for example, you have an emergency, you want to liquidate some of your assets at the end of the day. It's tough for you to liquidate a whole NFT because maybe your initial investment was just too big. So this basically allows you to maybe liquidate like 5%, 10%. That's up to you at any given moment in terms of, like, let's just say if you want to exit or if you need those funds as an emergency stake. So this also means that on the market, the OT system we created is dynamic. So for example, if you see a $10,000 pool, someone selling there, you can buy 500 of it, or you can buy maybe 50 of it in a sense. You don't need to buy the whole chunk. So this is what I mean by dynamic, in a sense whereby it's not going to be locked in that sense. It's moving in a way where basically everyone sort of gets to participate as well.
Okay, no, very good. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm glad you did it that way. I think that'll be really, that'll serve you very well going forward. So I think that's a good way to do it. Can you tell us about the dynamic LP system? I like the word dynamic. You know, it's a good word. But can you tell us a little bit about this and why it's important for the token?
Yes, for sure. So we started after we created the OT system. We started to talk and have discovery calls with some of the DEXs, and at the end of the day, we went with RBDEX because we believe. I think maybe I take one step back, right? The project is going to be launched on Arbitrum. On our pre-sale, we're obviously going to be accepting USDC and USDT on 4 different chains: the ETH, BSC, Arbitrum, and Polygon as well. But the whole project is going to be launched on Arbitrum. So after talking with some DEXs in that sense, in that season, we decided to go with RBDEX because we're close friends to them, and we understood the whole what they were trying to do. We know they have our best interest at heart, because sometimes DEXs, what they do with your LP tokens is they start prioritizing their earnings and their profitability. Basically, it sort of leads to a run on your token. And I say, in the best way that I can sort of explain this after discussing with them to create this system. And the reason also why we chose dynamic, because when you talk about LPs and OTCs, they're normally, I would say, a 2-dimensional system. There's just in and out. There's no other extra methodology of how we can make it work. So when we talk about the LP system, we start to see, hey, look, we're going to start off with providing a small liquidity pool. We're going to start allowing people to sort of arbitrage based on our token price, because one thing we did have that some of the DEXs pointed to us is that we have a system whereby people can sort of start predicting our payout in a sense, or if we have a good month payout, that sort of increases the value of the KERC token. So we talked about that also in our tokenomics, where we akin our system to the bond pricing. So when you look at the whole bond market in a sense, the bond paper sort of gives you a price point for people to arbitrage as well. So it came to a natural point progression whereby we should also create the system. So what that means is that, in a very simple terms of people who are sort of in crypto, is that the OT system is sort of, when you go into a SEX, you're talking about the spot buy, while the LP is sort of like the futures. So the futures will always vary and differ from the spot in a sense. In terms of the pricing, it will have its run, it will stabilize, because people will start speculating. People will start saying, hey, look, this month is maybe, in a sense, they're looking to do better. They're going to start speculating, maybe pump the price up, and then maybe some months it's not doing too well, they'll pump the price down. But that rubber band is going to be very safely guarded because of the OTC price system, because you're looking at bigger buys and bigger sells within the OTC system. And when we pay out our USDC fixed percentage and our profit participation, we'll be pricing it on the OTC system pricing rather than the dynamic pricing. So I hope that whole system sort of makes sense in terms of how we sort of structured this whole thing.
Yes, no, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. And I think it's really smart. And this is something that a lot of projects, they don't do a good job of when they start out, is really paying attention to their tokenomics and paying attention to their liquidity pool, and what's going to keep the price of the token from going too crazy. A lot of people just start up projects with very little thought. And they just say, oh, we're just going to launch a token and hope it works out. And it doesn't end well for investors. So I'm glad to see, I can tell you guys have put a lot of thought into this, and yeah, I hope it's can keep things very stable for investors. So no, that's great. We do have some audience questions I'd like to see, like to get to here in a minute. One more question that I had before we start getting to a few audience questions is, where do you kind of see this going? I like to kind of get a vision for, if you look forward, a year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe, even longer than that. Where would you like to see this all kind of end up if things work according to plan?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question, and definitely a good thing for investors to hear as well. So this is a project that's looking at long term. This is not a moonshot project where basically you come in, it's gonna 10x your value in a sense. No, we're not going to look at that. Well, if it happens because people value the KERC token more, well, it happens. But what we're looking at is long-term sustainable returns to our investors. That's number one. Number two, we're also looking to innovate the whole healthcare space. So that means is that on top of looking at acquiring these assets, we're trying to start pushing different innovation into the space. Because when you start handling all this health data, you start handling all this asset management, it's very easy to start working with also insurance companies. You start looking at basically your door-to-door prescription medication deliveries and stuff like that. This sort of just naturally just starts falling into place. And Southeast Asia is just not our end stop. We're looking to then expand towards the next region from Malaysia to Thailand, then Singapore, and our next target area is South America, where obviously a lot of the innovations and where we see also the assets being very undervalued as well, because the whole way that this system works is that because we are acquiring assets that are undervalued, and the healthcare system in that section and that region is still a bit healthy. And obviously, of course, when you start acquiring these assets, it's very easy to start snowballing to acquire more assets with our treasury funds rather than start new investment rounds down the road. And this will allows us also to maybe off-ramp groups of assets, which we can basically sort of give out as in terms of more rewards to our stakers and our investors as well. So this is not something that we're looking at like you said, like a 5-year plan. This is something that I foresee maybe running for 10 years or more, in that sense, where as long as we can keep pushing that innovation, as long as we can keep expanding to different countries, I think will be a good standard for the whole healthcare as a beacon. That's why we went with crypto ERC. That's why we call KERC, in that sense. We want to be the standard of ERC for the healthcare space.
There's where okay, gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. Let's see. Let's go to some audience questions, and then we'll talk about calls to action after that. I get excited for the calls to action, but let's get some audience questions in here. Badger says it would be nice to see KERC partnering with GenEco. So yes, we talked about that. So that's something we'll see if we can connect there. Now, not counting the DeFi angle, have you already proven profitability sustainable within this kind of model in healthcare before today? So are there already clinics that you're working with already, or what's kind of the past experience that you have with this?
Yes, so we basically in the whole COVID season, we were given an opportunity to manage basically I would say a sizable fund of investments into the healthcare industry, and this is when obviously a lot of the primary care or even businesses, because no one could go out in that season, no one could basically I would say do anything other than just either order your food or get vaccinated, because we were all stuck at home. So a lot of these businesses were suffering because of overheads, because of basically they need to put food on the table. We were given this opportunity to sort of handle that management fund. And with that management fund, we were able to grow our investment portfolio from these primary care assets to about 80 to 90 facilities at that time moment before handing that whole portfolio back. So we managed to do about, like we said previously, 60% in terms of their investment within 14 months. So we'll be able to ROI their whole investment portfolio. And as a group, because of the size we grew their portfolio to, they were able to sell that whole chunk to someone else. So we've done this before for someone else. And so now, because we have that experience, we're saying, hey, look, how can we now do this ourselves? But instead of giving a large chunk of our ownership to a PE or a VC, we're opening it up to basically the whole crypto space, because I have a heart for it, and I definitely see a innovational space moving about in this I would say community. So this is not something that is MVP, we're figuring it out in that sense. This is something that we've done before. We know it works, and we have the systems to sort of fix this problem. And like I said previously, personally, I also own quite a few of these assets, but we're going to keep that separate on a different line. That's why we had to create a whole different company structure to make this clean in a sense when it comes to the audits.
Okay, nope, very good. And then this is a good question, good discussion. So Arvin wants to say, Arvin said, oh, I lost the comment, but he said, okay, I don't get it. Why blockchain? So can you tell us what about the blockchain, and what parts of what you're doing do blockchain work better than what's traditionally out there? Using AWS, for example, or something like that. What about blockchain makes this better?
At the end of the day, as we all know, not your keys, not your coins. So not your server, not your data. At the end of the day, what we also see is that at the end of the day, a lot of insurance companies are prying on this. I'm definitely sure everyone has heard of the whole conversation where now health data, if you look at it in kilobytes, it's worth more than liquid gold or even liquid oil in that sense. Like your health data, because you see, when you mine oil or you mine gold, you can only use it for a few times in that transaction. But health data, you're looking at the whole lifespan of that patient, because when you have a patient's basic line health data, you can sort of start seeing, hey, look, what can I predict in terms of the healthcare issues that's going to come about, the costing is going to come about. That's why governments and insurance companies love this information at the end of the day, because it sort of helps them predict, okay, look, what is the costing going to be like? Then I can start arranging in terms of the margins, in terms of that. So they've always been trying to sort of get that data from you, and basically AWS and stuff on all these servers basically sort of give them that more accessibility. So when you move into the blockchain, it's not stored by us at the end of the day. It's your data at the end of the day. It's your information. It's stored securely on the application that we're going to introduce to sort of pull those data together. And it's basically your information. So we're not looking to sort of like sell your information. There's no way for us to do that. And we believe that that's a good and a healthy space for the healthcare market to be in.
Okay. Yep. Nope. I think that's a good answer. Yeah, I love data being on the blockchain rather than in somebody's server. We just had there's been data breaches left and right here recently, and it's better being on the blockchain. It's easily transferable. So again, transferring between different hospitals be very easy, but also very secure at the same time. And Jennyco's working with if you want to selling your data to pharmaceutical companies or things like that. You don't have to. Obviously, some people hear that and say, no, I don't want to do that. But if you want to, data is worth a lot of money. These pharmaceutical companies make a lot of money from users' data. And so if you want to take part in that, blockchain is the way to go. So love that. Bray says, seeing as you are a bricks and mortar business, what is your actual company name? Is it KERC LLC? And where are you registered?
Yeah, so basically our company, we're going to basically reveal this after the pre-sale, because as we go, I think these are very bullish information. People like to see this. So we have already registered the company. It's called KRX Holdings Sdn Bhd, because we're starting off in Malaysia. LLC is basically sort of that sole proprietor of what we call it in a sense. Not sole proprietor, sorry. Sdn Bhd, that's what we call that here. So we'll be releasing those information as we go in snippets. So if you join our Discord, you can start seeing us sort of releasing those information out into our community as well. I think in the white paper it's a good template in terms of like a structure, but at the end of the day, because these are dynamic things, because when we wrote the white paper, we haven't set it up yet. So we don't want to keep going back and updating. I think the Discord is a good place to sort of start putting those information out. So as we start moving towards our pre-sale and our launch sale, we'll be releasing all those information and getting people excited. Say, hey, look, we've already done this. This is what we do. So it's sort of like I would say an ammo that we're keeping in reserve.
Okay. Yep. Nope. I love that. You got to keep some of those things for when the token launches. So can you tell us a little bit about the pre-sale? Tell us about when the pre-sale is going to be opening. You mentioned starting on the Arbitrum chain. So just any info people might need to know to get involved in this pre-sale.
Yeah, for sure. So the pre-sale is going to launch on 4 different chains. It's not one chain. We thought it just make it easier because we realized there was some issues with the Arbitrum chain basically working with USDC, USDT, and stuff like that, because there was a run on the peg price, I think, a couple of months back. So a lot of the sexes are a bit hesitant to basically allow you to sort of withdraw or trade on the Arbitrum chain with that. So we've made it a bit easier for everyone to sort of move their funds in their native chain that they're sort of like, even though we are starting off on the Arbitrum chain, because we like the I would say the system of the ETH system without the high gas fees at the end of the day, because
absolutely.
The ETH network is very easy to innovate and work with. Our lead dev Snocky Pi as well, he loves the whole network as well. It costs cents compared to the like every transaction you cost like $30-40 in that sense on the ETH network. So it's our pre-sale is gonna launch on the 24th. You can basically move those funds into the DApp on 4 different chains up to your liking. So it's going to be the ETH, BSC, Arbitrum, and Polygon. But the project is going to start on Arbitrum. And there is a whitelist opportunity that's still happening now in that sense. Joining our Discord, you figure out how to get whitelisted. There will be a closed sale on the 18th for our guests. I would say sort of a fixed number of investors that we're going to try and bring in. So there will be benefits of being on the whitelist as well.
Okay. Yep. So calls to action, which again, I love. Marketing guy, always like calls to action. The first one, cheapest, easiest one is hit the like button on the video. Okay. Because that helps get the word out to other people. They can watch this and know about KERC, get info on that. Second is I always recommend to everyone, hop into the Discord. Even if you're not sure you want to be an investor or anything like that, just hop into the Discord, get to know the community, get to know the team. I will say of the projects, I do a lot of AMAs, right? Talk with a lot of projects. I will say that KERC has things more put together and they've than most projects I interact with. Okay. Usually I'm trying to catch people up on their tokenomics and things like that. And like, hey, you should probably think about liquidity and things like that. And so just really happy that John and his team have got this all settled. They've have a good business model here in place, but just hop in the Discord, get to know the community. If you have specific questions, go ask, and the team and the community more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. So those are free. And then if you're wanting to get involved financially, again, just wait for the pre-sale, the 24th, I believe you said, correct?
Correct.
24th. So stick around for that. And again, all the numbers are in the white paper there. I'll post that link one more time if you want to just check that out for what kind of numbers that we're looking at. So anything you want to add to that, or did I cover pretty much what you guys are looking for?
Yeah, I guess you covered pretty much everything in that sense, because definitely if you want a longer video, I've done a 3-hour AMA as well. If you want that like Lord of the Rings extended edition of an
right,
AMA.
right, exactly. You want the Samuel Riley and the backstory. Yeah, no, I think this is very straightforward. I really like what you guys are doing. I'll leave a link to this page. Let's see if I can pull it back up. This page in the white paper one more time. I think this really is helpful for people explaining what kind of returns you might look to receive from the staking, whether you get into the pre-sale or whether you get into the official launch here. So I'll leave this link again. But again, yeah, if you guys have any more questions, please hop into the Discord. Very, very cool project. I love to see people just using the blockchain to move technology forward. So I feel like as an industry, crypto is moving forward, DeFi is moving forward. And so thank you so much for being a part of that, building something that we can be as excited about as a community.
Yeah, thank you as well for giving me a space to sort of share and talk about what we are doing here as well.
Yes, and stay tuned, everyone, because we may be doing more. I may be doing more about KERC in the future. Okay, I'm looking to partner with them more on some other things and just get exposure to this. Again, when I find nuggets and gems in the space that are doing something that is bringing in revenue, helping the space, helping consumers, helping investors, I like to do what I can to help get the word out there. So very, very, very excited for that. So look forward to that. So we'll go ahead and wrap up there. Audience, you guys are amazing. Appreciate you guys more than you know. Again, the only reason I can meet any of these projects or do anything is because I have an audience. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all your support. Please hit like. And John, really appreciate you hopping on, talking through this, and look forward to kind of seeing how things go and working more with you in the future.
Yeah, for sure as well. Thank you as well for being a great host, asking great questions. Anyone else, if you have any questions, come into my Discord. You can ask my community. I never shy away from any questions. I love to answer them. We love to be transparent, and we love to basically just showcase in terms of what we do. So hop in.
Yep, absolutely. And speaking of 3-hour AMAs, we got you bonks here. Great AMA. Thanks, guys. Yes. And I always tell people, if you want the short version, you come to James Pelton. If you want the deep 3-hour dive, you go to Yabonks. Okay. And that's kind of, we work as a team in that way. So, and we got a lot of people like you too. So very, very cool. My community seems to really like you. So yeah, everybody watching here, go hop in the Discord right now. Would really appreciate that. So thank you all. Hope you have a great weekend. I'm actually on vacation heading to Tennessee to visit my brother this week. So, but I'll be doing some videos here and there throughout the week. So appreciate all you guys and hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks, everybody.